Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. This is the Scholarships 101 Introduction and Finding Scholarships. It's presented by the Student Parent Center and me, I'm Anita Adams, the the lead peer advisor. So first I'd like to talk a little bit about our agenda. I know we have an hour and a half booked, but it will probably not go that long. I just wanted to make sure we had a time for question and answers at the end. So first we'll start with an introduction and then go into some of the scholarship basics. This may be review for some of you or new, just depending on how much experience you have. And then I'll walk you through how to find scholarships, particularly scholarships at Berkeley. And then finally, we'll do a bit of how to organize your scholarship process to make your life a lot easier. And then finally, we'll do a Q&A, which will not be recorded to protect everyone's privacy. So first, a little about me. I'm a mom to a 12-year-old daughter, Zula, who's in the picture. I was a transfer and a reentry student. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in political science from UC Berkeley, and I went to De Anza Community College. I'm the lead student advisor, and I've been working at the Student Parent Center for over 3 years now. Just some street cred, so to speak. I've won about 15 scholarships, but I've definitely applied to like 2 to 3 times that many. And I've mentored many student parents who have also won lots of scholarships as well. So this isn't my first time going over this stuff. And if you need any help after the workshop, feel free to email me and I'll meet with you one-on-one and we can talk over your application or if you have any other questions. So first, let's talk about scholarships versus loans. So a scholarship is a grant or a fellowship which is paid, which is a sum of money awarded to support a student's education. This can be used for any educational expense, including living expenses for you and your child, which is really crucial because normally UC Berkeley only funds your educational expenses, things like childcare, additional food, personal expenses, and other expenses that your child has can be funded with scholarship money. Also medical expenses. It does not have to be paid back and it can come from many different sources. So it can come from campus departments, from UC Berkeley specific scholarships, or from outside organizations and companies that award scholarships. Versus loans, which of course everyone knows they must be paid back. And just to review, there are 2 types of loans. There's subsidized loans, which means it does not start accruing interest while you're in school. These are the best loans because you'll end up owing less money. And then unsubsidized loans, which start accruing interest right away, so they're more expensive. One cool fact about scholarships at UC Berkeley is you can use your scholarship to pay back your loan. So say you need the money right away and you've taken out your loans for the semester. If you later on receive a scholarship, that money can be paid back for your loan and you'll never owe any interest on that loan. So let's go over, do you even need a scholarship? Because many student parents with financial need come in with what looks like a full financial aid package. Although the true cost of attendance of the university is much more for student parents. So yes, you need scholarships because almost always when you do your cost of attendance, or if you have additional expenses, that money will be covered in loans. So in order to avoid those loans, you need to apply for scholarships. The exception to this is the Regents and Chancellor scholarships, and we can talk about that separate, but generally you would know if you had this. It's a very special award that does not require you to have outside funding. Now for the cost of attendance form, this is how you're gonna increase your budget to allow for the loans, for the scholarships, hopefully for the scholarships. It'll reflect your actual living expenses for you and your child. It'll increase the budget and be offered in loans. And we will be having a workshop on Friday on the cost of attendance. So try to attend that. And if not, like all of our workshops at the Student Parent Center, it will be recorded so you can watch it when it's convenient. So why should you apply? First of all, scholarships really want you to apply. The cool thing about student parents, which is why I love the community and feel such a connection, is we all have a story where, oftentimes we haven't taken the traditional path to get our education. Maybe we've had kids before, or kids during, while you were getting your school. And it's a very diverse community, but each individual story is super important. And what people that administer scholarships are looking for is they want applicants with, they want to support people who are really doing something to better themselves. And all student parents really are getting their degree to benefit their family and themselves. So you've got this greater purpose, and it's very easy to then communicate that purpose in a scholarship application, and people love to support us. So please do apply. And then also to avoid loans, which we've already kind of talked about, and to build generational wealth. Scholarships are a tool to shrink the loan and wealth gap. So if you look at who takes out student loans based on ethnicities, like there's a terrible gap between students of color and white students. So scholarships are a way to lessen that gap and to allow you to start building wealth as soon as you graduate from school, so you have less of a worry about student loans. It also allows you to focus on your education by reducing the need to work outside of school. This is hugely important because UC Berkeley is so intense, which if you're new students, you're just starting to figure that out, or continuing students. So it's hard to, work 20, 30, or even 40 hours to help support your family while you're going to school. And this gives you a bridge to be able to do that, to be able to go to school and not take out loans without working. It's also one of the best parts I'm finding out is it's good practice for fellowships and grad school applications, and also ultimately your job search, because it gives you time to practice and perfect telling your personal narrative, your personal story. And as you do that, you're basically developing a phenomenal grad school application or a fellowship application, or in the case of your resume, you're learning to articulate the experiences you've done in a way that's cohesive and compelling. And the more scholarships you apply to, the more you have opportunities to practice this. And really, by the time you apply for grad school, you've already got this, this giant source material to pull from for your grad school apps. So is it worth your time? Of course, I'm going to say yes, absolutely. So if you just look at the numbers, it's a great return on investment. So if you work 5 hours on a scholarship application, and I would say for me personally, that's about average. Maybe even once you have a bunch of applications done, it gets faster and faster to where it might only take you an hour. And if you win $1,000 or even $500, that's $200 per hour or $100 per hour. So it's definitely worth your time. Not every scholarship is created equal, so you do want to be strategic about which ones you're spending time on. We're going to go over a little more when we talk about finding scholarships, but there's going to be scholarships that are only open to UC Berkeley students. So that means the pool of applicants is a lot smaller, so your chance of winning is a lot greater. Versus a general scholarship. If it's a general scholarship open to all students without a lot of restrictions, that may be very difficult to win. But there are just some general scholarships which we'll highlight that are open to Berkeley students or other students in the Bay Area that are specifically for mothers or for parenting students. And there's not that many parenting students, so you've got a higher chance of winning. You also, one of the great parts about, it doesn't take as long as you might think, because you've already got your application almost complete, because whatever essay you wrote to get into Berkeley is very similar to most scholarship essays. So you may need to tweak it and add some things, but you're basically almost done. And we'll go over that at the next workshop, like how to use what you've already got and how to make it the best scholarship essay. Finally, it's a number game. The more scholarships you apply for, the greater chance you will win. That's just, so like for me, I've applied to so many scholarships that I haven't won, and don't let a few no's discourage you. Because, the more you apply for, you're not only improving your application each time, but the odds of winning are much greater. And then finally, you can recycle scholarship applications. So the more you do, the easier it gets. So let's go over some requirements for scholarships. So scholarships may have requirements to apply, not all do. So before you spend any time on the application, you want to make sure you meet every requirement. And we'll go over more about that in the finding the scholarship. So some of the requirements you might see are scholarships are often targeted to particular populations of students. So that can be based on your major, ethnicity, gender, community service, leadership, student parents, moms, reentry students, transfer students, low income. There's a myriad of different populations that they target. So you're probably going to fit into more than one. And some you must be in your first semester versus continuing students. Some have GPA limits, but not all of them. So if your GPA is not great, don't let that stop you. Sometimes it's based on your Cal GPA, sometimes your community college, or you can combine them, which often helps. And if you're ever unclear about the requirements, most of the time there's going to be an email address for someone you can ask questions to. And don't hesitate. If there's a question where you might be kind of on the fence of, I don't know if I meet it, go ahead and ask because you might meet it. And the good thing is the more requirements there are, the less applications they're going to get. So if you find a very specific scholarship, that's great if you fit those parameters. So we'll real quick talk about the parts of a scholarship application. So you want your application, this is true for not only, all of the information I'm giving today is true not just for scholarships, but any application you're going to apply for. You want it to be a complete package. Each part is an opportunity to add more depth to your personal narrative and to tell more of your story. So because often the personal statements are so short or might be limiting, you have opportunities within the letters of rec, obviously your transcripts show your educational history, but your resume can show your community service work. All of these components help to tell the narrative. And so almost always what's required is a scholarship essay. And that could either be a personal statement or answering a prompt, like what kind of leader are you? Or what's, how do you give back to your community? Or what's it like being a student parent? Those are the kind of prompts you might see. Sometimes required are letters of recommendation. You can have one or more, but you don't always have to submit the maximum. And we're going to go over that in the third, getting letters of recommendation in the third workshop. But it's easier than you might think, and there's more sources than you may think, especially for new students that don't have a lot of, don't have relationships with UC Berkeley professors. There's ways around that. So don't let that limit you. And then finally, rarely I've seen resumes, a CV, which is very similar to a resume, a short bio, a thank you letter. There's all types of stuff they can add on, but most of the time it's just an essay and your letters of recommendation. So let's talk about finding scholarships, the most difficult part sometimes, but luckily Berkeley makes it really easy. So first of all, I definitely recommend you signing up for mailing lists of like the Student Parent Center, EOP, Reentry Student Parent, or any other program that you might belong to at Cal often has an email list, or you can follow these programs on social media and they will post scholarships that most of their students will be able to qualify for. So that's a great way to find them. Also, my favorite tool is scholarship. So with the Scholarship Connections, it's a website that Berkeley produced that has not only Berkeley scholarships, but it also has scholarships from outside organizations. So right now, I will take you to that website and show you a bit how we search for scholarships. So this is the website. And you can also sign up for a mailing list here. Just click here and add your email address. And they send out, I think it's a weekly mailing list with upcoming scholarships, which is great. So the way you can search by many different parameters, like underrepresented group, type and eligibility, title search. But the way I like to search is actually by the deadline. And what I personally do is every 2 to 3 months, I would go on here for the upcoming months and just see what's available. So we're in, I don't think there's very much for August, so let's check September. So then you apply. Oh, so not much in September. Most of them come due in October and November, and fall is a great time for scholarships. There's also a lot of scholarships in the spring, but fall has a ton of scholarships. So what I'll do, normally you can do this however you want, is even if it might not sound like, oh, I'm not Japanese, or, you know, like it might not seem like the scholarship fits, I still click on it and open it and look to see who and what it's for. Because sometimes it'll say it's for business, but then it'll allow social science majors to apply. And you never know until you actually click on it. So for this one, it shows the date. It's due, the Japanese government is offering 2 scholarships for students. So you would go through each one of these, or, you know, search by specific majors, however you want to search. And if you find one you like, so I have highlighted one here, which is the Zachary Cruz Scholarship. This one is for student parents. It used to allow transfer students to apply, but now I think it's specifically for student parents. And you see the award amount, the deadline. It does not have the official deadline on there yet, so it'll just say December, or sometimes it says to be determined. And you can, so you want to pay attention to all of this over here, which talks, so this is for both undergraduate and graduate, the class level. Okay, great, it's everything. The area of study, so you want to make sure your area of study is listed here, which this one does not specify. So I think all of them should be okay. So the restriction. So undergraduate students currently enrolled at UC Berkeley, which is great. That means there's going to be less people applying. And then attended public high school in Ventura or San Francisco Bay Area. And I think this one, they've actually changed it to attend public high school or community college. So if you went in any of the Bay Area counties or Ventura County, you would be able to qualify. And that's the only stipulation other than being a student parent. So it'll have the website where you qualify or where you apply and can get more information. So that's kind of how you find scholarships. And I'll tell you the next part about it, which is organizing once you've found scholarships you want to apply for. So, great. So once you find a few scholarships you want to apply for, I recommend you take a few minutes to organize the entire process. It will save you, just a few minutes of organization will literally save you hours of time and make you much more efficient at applying for scholarships in the future. And what I personally use is Google Suite. I found it's a great resource and I can access it anywhere at any time if I'm at school. When we used to be able to be at campus, you can work on your scholarship at one of the school computers and then go home and work on it there. So first, when you find a scholarship, what I like to do is create a Google event for 2 to 3 weeks. I'll show you how to do that before you want to apply, before the deadline. That way, say you find a scholarship that's due in December and you don't want to have to deal with it until December, you put it for 2 weeks before that scholarship is due, and that gives you plenty of time to get your application together. And make sure you include in the event the due date and a link to the application. And I'll show you how I do that in just a second. And then finally, in your Google Drive, you're going to want to use that to organize, or this could be your personal computer files too. I just like Google Drive because if anything happens to my computer, I know it's saved and I'm able to access it forever, or as long as Google's around. So you're going to want to create folders for each of the scholarship components, and then you can do subfolders based on scholarship type. It helps you when you're trying to reuse. essays, because oftentimes scholarship prompts are very similar. And the one time you can absolutely plagiarize yourself is with scholarships. As long as it's your own writing, it doesn't matter. So let me show you what that process looks like real quick. And for those of you that just joined, this meeting is being recorded, so you can go back and watch the beginning. It'll be posted to the YouTube channel. So for calendars, so to give you an example for Zachary Cruz scholarship, we'll just say it's due December 15th. So what I like to do is I go to my calendar and I will go like 2 weeks before if I feel like I'm going to be really busy, maybe 3 weeks before, and create a new event. And then just make it for the entire like 2 weeks until it's due. So we said it's due on the 15th. And then I just title it the scholarship. And then make sure things you're gonna wanna include in it are like the deadline, due December 15th. And then I always include the link to it, either the link to the scholarship connection website or the link that they give you here. And that way you have everything you need to do. And when it gets to December, you don't have to think about it and it's already there, and it gives you 2 weeks to work on it, which is great. Now let me show you how I organize kind of my Google Drive to keep everything straight. So this gives you an example. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been applying for scholarships for 4 years now. So I'm gonna have a lot. You're just gonna have a few things when you start out, but by having a drive where you keep everything organized, it makes it super easy so you can go back and reference. For example, I have all of my transcripts in scanned in one folder. That way, if I see a scholarship a couple hours before the deadline, it's really easy to just upload the transcripts and they're all saved in there. And then applications and scholarships, as you apply for more things, you may want to switch this around. So I have, let's open this up. So I have general scholarships. I did 2 study abroad experiences, and there are tons of scholarships available for study abroad. So I had both study abroads paid for with scholarships. And then as you see, I save every single essay I've ever written for a scholarship in here. And that way, if I know Live Your Dream Scholarship is one we'll talk about. That one is for mothers who are students. So if I'm doing a scholarship, another scholarship that's based on motherhood, I would just go to this scholarship essay and copy and paste. And then maybe update it for new things. Or there's the Zachary Cruz. So you can reuse over and over. And the more you have, like I would say 2/3 of these scholarship essays are basically the same information, just altered slightly. And it makes the process very fast. Let's see what else. I even have scholarships for my daughter in there. Start them off young. And the same thing for letters of recommendation. As you get letters of recommendation, I recommend you save them, because if you ever need to request a letter of recommendation from that same person, you can email them the old letter of recommendation. That way it's super easy for them and they'll be very happy to get that. And sometimes you can ask for a general letter of recommendation from someone, so you don't have to constantly update it. And that's a great place to save there too. And then again, resumes. And the resume I started with my scholarship applications is what I ended up using for when I applied for jobs. That kind of shows the organization aspect of it. Let's see. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the scholarships that are coming up for fall 2020. Now with coronavirus, everything is in flux, and some of the deadlines that are normally posted by now are not posted yet, but all of these scholarships will still be available. And as they come available, the Student Parent Center will be emailing them out. So keep an eye on your email, and we'll also be posting them to Facebook, definitely. So a huge one is, like I already talked about, the Zachary Cruz Memorial Scholarship. That's actually administered through the Student Parent Center. So if you have any questions about that scholarship, you can ask Tommy or me. about it because Tommy is the expert on that scholarship. And again, that's only for UC Berkeley students who attended either high school or community college in the Bay Area or Ventura County. Or, and then there's another one that's the PEO scholarship. This one is unique. It's not just for Berkeley students, but there's a chapter of the organization that only works with Berkeley students. So what they do is they nominate many people for the scholarship from UC Berkeley student parents. And unfortunately, it's only for mothers, not for fathers. So there's also Live Your Dream Scholarship, which is also another general scholarship, but it's specific for mothers. And again, there's a chapter in Berkeley that nominates people from UC Berkeley student parents. Another great opportunity and a really important one for new student parents is the Crankstart Reentry Scholarship. This is open only to new transfer students in their first semester at Cal, which means it's a very limited amount of people that can apply for it. And I think it's like $2,000 to $3,000. So it's a great amount of money. And the thing is, you have to have a gap in your education, but most student parents have, like between the time you went to high school, or maybe you took a couple years off from community college, that qualifies you as a reentry student. And then also done by the reentry by the reentry center is the Osher Reentry Scholarship. This is for continuing student parents. So continuing students. So this is students who aren't in their very first semester at Cal. And this one you can get over and over again. Like you can apply every year, which is great. And again, you have to have a gap in your education. And a special one I wanted to highlight because I went through it and it's a really great program is the Haas Public Service Leaders. So this encourages UC Berkeley students who want to do either a public service project or work for a nonprofit, and you get a scholarship. So that way you don't have to, you can devote your time to public service versus having to go work. So it's a great program, and it's also a leadership program. So they do leadership development and have meetings every month and go on development trips to Sacramento. It's a fantastic program. And so all of these things are going to be coming up in the next couple months. And then real quick, I'll talk about the future workshops. Again, all of these workshops, including this one, are going to be recorded for you. But please do attend if you want to ask questions after, because in order to do the Q&A, you have to actually be here. So on Friday, we're doing a cost of attendance adjustment workshop. So that'll make room for all of these scholarships you're going to win. And then next Tuesday, I'm going to do an anatomy of a scholarship essay. So this is going to go into detail on what makes a good scholarship essay, how to distinguish yourself, what's not a scholarship essay. So it'll go into detail on that. And hopefully, the question and answer section will be really great here because you can ask specific questions about your particular circumstances. And then finally, in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about getting letters of recommendation, resumes, and CVs. And anything else, some closing up final remarks about like building a good scholarship application. And so that's it for today. For those of you that just joined, the workshop was recorded and you can go back and watch that in a few minutes once we finish up. So I am going to stop sharing and then you guys can answer, or stop recording, sorry, and then you guys can ask any questions.